Hello dear students, in this video we are going to study the summary of the poem Ode to the West Wind written by P.B. Shelley. Before going to explain the poem Ode to the West Wind, first of all we should know what is an ode. In English literature, ode is a name given to a long lyric poem. An ode often begins with an invocation, means with an address. It is in the form of an address, generally dignified and elaborate in stanzaic structure. The subject matter is also serious. Pindaric ode takes its name from the Greek poet Pindar, who modeled his odes on the songs of the chorus in Greek drama. The Romantic poets wrote many odes. Dryden's Ode to Saint Cecilia is a very well known ode. In your prescribed syllabus, we will study the ode named Ode to the West Wind, composed by Percy Bysshe Shelley, and in this video we will study the summary of Ode to the West Wind. So now students, on your screen you can see the text of the summary. So the speaker invokes the wild west wind of autumn. Here the poet speaks wild west wind to the wind that blows in the season of autumn, and this wind scatters the dead leaves and spreads seeds so that they may be nurtured by the spring. So that is the setting, that in this poem the speaker addresses the wild west wind, that is the wind blown in autumn season, and he addresses the wind which scatter the dead leaves and spreads seeds so that they may be nurtures, they may be get fed up by the spring wind, and asks that the wind, a destroyer and preserver, hear him. The speaker calls the wind the dirge of the dying year. As we all know that dirge is a morning song, and describes how it stirs up violent storms, and again implores means pleads it to hear him. Here in this poem the speaker addresses wild west wind as destroyer and preserver, and he pleads the west wind to hear him. The speaker says that the wind stirs the Mediterranean from his summer dreams and cleaves the Atlantic into choppy chasm, making the shapeless foliage of the ocean tremble, and asks for a third time that it hear him. So in the poem the speaker um, first of all describes the effect of west wind on the land part, and in the second part of the poem he describes the effect of west wind under the water. So here is a mention of Mediterranean Sea and Atlantic Ocean. The speaker says that if he were a dead leaf, and in the next part of the poem the speaker puts some conditional sentences, like he thinks that if he were a dead leaf that the wind could bear, or a cloud it could carry, or a wave it could push, or even if he were as a boy, then he would behave like a comrade. Comrade means fellow being of winds wandering over heaven. Then he would never have needed to pray to the wind and invoke its powers. He pleads with the wind, means he requests the wind to lift him as a wave, a leaf, or a cloud. For though he is like the wind at heart, untamable and proud, he is now chained. Now, in the poem, the speaker is somewhat pessimistic in the last part of the poem, and he thinks that he is now chained and bowed with the weight of his hours upon the earth. The speaker asks the wind to make me thy lyre, to be his own spirit, and to drive his thoughts across the universe. In the last stanzas of the poem, the speaker urges the wind to make him his lyre so that he can drive his thoughts across the universe like withered leaves to quicken a new birth. He asks the wind by the incantation of this verse to scatter his words among mankind, to be the trumpet of a prophecy, speaking both in regard to the season and in regard to the effect upon mankind. As I have told you that in this poem the speaker describes the function or the effects of west wind on land part, under the water, and in the air also. So, speaking both in regard to the season and in regard to the effect upon mankind that he hopes his words to have, the speaker asks, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? So, that is the most um, important, most significant lines of this poem. If winter comes, can spring be far behind? This line suggests a mood of optimism. Now we will talk about what is the form of this poem. Each of the 7 parts of Ode to the West Wind contains 5 stanzas, 4 3-line stanzas, and a 2-line couplet, all metered in iambic pentameter. So you can notice that in this poem iambic pentameter is used, and there are 5 stanzas of 4 3-line stanzas, and the last is a couplet. The rhyme scheme in each part follows a pattern known as terza rima. What is terza rima? Terza rima is the 3-line rhyme scheme employed by Dante in his Divine Comedy. In the 3-line terza rima stanza, the first and the third lines rhyme and the middle line doesn't. Like it has a rhyme scheme of A B A, B C B, C D C, and so on. Then the end sound of that middle line is employed as a rhyme for the first and third lines in the next stanza. The final couplet rhymes with the middle line of the last 3-line stanza. Thus, each of the 7 parts of Ode to the West Wind follows this scheme: A B A, B C B, C D C, D E D, and E E. So now, students, you can notice that first and third line of the stanza rhyme, but second line does not rhyme. It continue to remain in the next lines. Next part of the summary is commentary. The wispy fluid terza rima of Ode to the West Wind finds Shelley taking a long thematic leap beyond the scope of hymn to intellectual beauty. The poet wants to say that hymn to intellectual beauty, when he wrote the poem Hymn to Intellectual Beauty, Ode to the West Wind is a one step forward poem, and incorporating his into his meditation on beauty and the natural world. Shelley invokes the wind magically, describing its power and its role as both destroyer and preserver. When we will read the text of the poem, we will fully know the meaning of how it works like a destroyer, and how it works like a preserver, and asks the wind to sweep him out of his torpor as a wave, a leaf, a cloud. In the fifth section, the poet then takes a remarkable turn, transforming the wind into a metaphor for his own art, the expressive capacity that drives dead thoughts like withered leaves. So here you can notice, a student, that the inverted parts, the phrases that are mentioned here in inverted commas, they are the lines from the poem. So when we will read the text, we will get to know everything easily. Withered leaves over the universe to quicken a new birth, that is to be quicken the coming of the spring. Here the spring season is a metaphor for a spring of human consciousness, imagination, liberty, or morality. All the things Shelley hoped his art could help to bring about in the human mind, Shelley asks the wind to be his spirit, and in the same moment he makes it his metaphorical spirit, his poetic faculty, which will play him like a musical instrument. So, in this poem, the poet urges West Wind to make the poet his musical instrument, the way the wind strums the leaves of the trees. The thematic implication is significant, whereas the older generation of romantic poets viewed nature as a source of truth and authentic experience. The younger generation largely viewed nature as a source of beauty and aesthetic experience. In this poem, Shelley explicitly links nature with art by finding powerful natural metaphors with powerful natural human with which to express his ideas about the power, import, quality, and ultimate effect of aesthetic expression. So, this poem is somewhere optimistic, and at some places it is a pessimistic poem. And in this poem, the poet explains, the poet describes the effect of west wind on the land part, under the water, and in the air. And this poem was written in 1819, and it is one of the finest of Shelley's lyrics. Written in woods near Florence, it was composed on a day when the west wind was both mild and animating. The poem celebrates the elemental rush of the wind. Metaphor succeeds metaphor, and simile follows simile. The rhythm of the poem also keeps pace with the tempestuous gale. So that's all about the summary of this poem. In our forthcoming videos, I will explain the text of this poem. So thank you all.